Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. I'm your host, Critical Failure. It's Inauguration Day here on TCR. Now, I do not care about politics. However, the only reason why I point this out is because when I sat down with my little MP3 player to record the pilot for TCR, that was also on Inauguration Day. So I feel like it's a special occasion here on TCR. So let's do the American thing and ignore all that and talk about video games. Big thing this week was the original Rogue turned up on Steam some point at the end of last year, and I caught wind of it and did some research. We're going to check that out, but first, a chiptune. You're listening to TCR. Stick with us. That's 8-bit Nintendo. Off the Chiptunes Equals Win Volume 6, back when they were really doing chiptunes. Not just before they closed up shop, but before they really branched out so much into just other electronic music. Good times. Chiptunes Equals Win from better days. All right. Let's go to the recording from yesterday. So this bit is being recorded out of sequence. What is today? Today's Tuesday because of the holiday. So I'm probably going to finish the show tomorrow morning, and then I'll just sub this in the middle like I used to do with the bandcasts. But here's the thing that happened this past week that I wanted to talk about while it's fresh in my mind. So Steam and GOG and these digital distribution platforms, occasionally very old games surface on these platforms, and it's, kind of a cool thing. Across the Rhine is the example I usually go to. It's a very old tank game, the kind of game that very few people would care about today, but it's for sale on Steam. And if you look at the community hub, it's a lot of people who, are the older generation saying, oh, hey, my dad had this game. Or in a couple instances, oh, hey, I had this game on my 386 when I used to work when I was a young man, or something like that. Kind of a neat thing, right? So, what should turn up on the Steam storefront but the original Rogue, which was kind of a head-scratcher for me. So, to put it in perspective, we played Rogue in my house on my dad's 386 machine, pre-Windows. We played it quite a lot. Rogue was one of a few games where my dad had a copy of it, and we had like a family scoreboard that ran for years and years and years. When I was very, very young, like 4 years old, my dad had this 386, and my oldest brother would play, because he was probably so I was 4 and he was graduating high school. So the scores on all of these local scoreboards, like Rogue and Beast was another one, were mostly a combination of my dad and my oldest brother. And Rogue was one of those games where it's we had this localized scoreboard. I could never get on it, but I used to love to play it. And since then, it's been kind of a staple of abandonware sites. Being freely distributed MS-DOS program, you could just go and download it or whatever. It was always kind of unclear to me who had the rights to it, but you could always go and get it. So to see it turn up on Steam, and not for free either, it's on Steam for $3, $2.99. So I don't know what to make of that. I'm gonna be honest, it's a little different from the Rogue I had as a kid. The graphics are the same, but they actually put a teeny tiny little bit of work into making it like a real Steam port. For example, when you decide to quit the game, or when you lose, that's the trailer, yeah, when you lose, it says, do you want to play again, yes or no? No will take you back to Steam, and it says that in the game text. So clearly there's a little bit of updating going on in it. So not the typical Night Dive type of port. Night Dive's that company, dumps a lot of these old games on Steam, and nothing is really done to bring them up to date. It's just kind of a DOSBox implementation and the game, which is fine. But this one has clearly had a wee bit more. So I did some checking in the forums, and people are saying this is specifically the Epix Inc. version of Rogue. Another great distinction is that there is a title screen with an image when you play the game. It says 1985 Epix on it, and there's a skull sort of thing, and pretty sweet looking. I think it's worth mentioning what actually is being said, because one of the people on the forums was talking about being in contact with one of the original developers of Rogue from 30 plus years ago. And I am going to pause this so I can bring that up, because I want to read it before it gets deleted from the forums. Okay, yeah, here we go. This is posted October 22nd, so this has been on the discussion forums of the original Rogue for a while. Legality is the subject line. He says, it is known that none of the creators of Rogue are involved with this release. The original Rogue is not open source. There are places online where you can play it for free. Open source creations of Rogue. Some good ones are Rogue Collection, Rogue Clone 4, and the versions by the Roguelike Restoration Project. And then he links to a Twitter discussion. First poster, this is Epix Rogue. I wonder if the publishers have some license deal with the current holders of the Epix properties. That is possible. However, I hear they also have a Steam release of the Temple of Asphai games, which were owned by Epix. However, I don't know the details of the deal that they had with the Rogue guys. I don't think they outright sold the rights to Epix. It was probably more of a publishing license. But it is true. It is true that it's just speculation. I'm in contact with Glenn Witchman, which is one of the game's original creators. From time to time, as a thread I link shows, he's pretty laid back about it. Though Arnold and Toy might not be. The publishers of the Steam version may have a stink about them legally going after streamers for a past project, I hear, which is concerning. Yeah, and that's, I think, the last... that leads into 4 pages of bickering. I mean, as you know, internet forums often do. And I think there was one more topic that was worth reading on the air. Yeah, 20 hours ago. This game is illegal. You do not own the rights to Rogue. You have absolutely no right to sell it. I contacted Steam about it, and I suggest others do the same. Want to make a few bucks? Then make your own game instead of trying to cash in on other people's work. First reply, I'm curious about it too. So far I've read open allegations, nothing factual, so I'm open to any answer. Next reply, this is Epic's Rogue. It seems like they bought the rights to the Epic's titles like California games. You should make sure you before posting topics like this. The next one is a yellow name. I guess that means it would be a dev. Epix went bankrupt in 1989 and ceased to exist in 1993. The only assets that were sold to a publisher named System 3 in 2006. I can't find any info about Pixel Games UK buying anything from Epix or Steam 3. You should make sure before posting answers like this. So where do you fit in all this? Are you just a blowhard online, or are you involved with any of these companies in a meaningful way? Next reply, knock it off. It's a great port of an abandonware title. Just enjoy it, you trolls. Don't know. I don't know. I'm torn, to be honest. Next reply, I think this would be a perfectly legal thing to do. I mean, it's not like they're selling some no-name product on the black market where nobody goes. It's one of the original creators of the genre on the biggest online storefront this side of the galaxy and Beverly Hills. What? That doesn't mean they have the rights to sell it. Next, to be fair, I'd be fine if they bothered to add something to the game. Titles, revamp, UI, achievements, anything really. But downloading a free game, slapping your name on it, and selling it on Steam should not be okay. And they go on and on and on. This is not what they are doing. This is specifically the version of Rogue for the PC that was published by Epix as a commercial product. I don't know any of the details of the original contact between Epix and the developers, but that allows or not allows in terms of reselling the game on Steam. But in regarding the rights to Epix in general, the Steam page states the following. Epix Rogue is used under the original license from Code 10, Digital Limited, and Bridgestone Multimedia Group. The Epix logo is a trademark of the Bridgestone Multimedia Group with all rights reserved. So there are deals in place with 2 direct, distinct rights holders to distribute this on Steam. Again, I don't know if the original contract between Epix and AI Design allows for redistribution or how it will work with royalties, but it's not like the distribution rights to Epix games just vanished. The current owners seem to hold Code 10 Digital and Bridgestone Media Group. However, how that came to be, I have no idea. But that's how it is often with rights to old games and publisher catalogs. I think that's as far down that rabbit hole as I'm going to go. To sum up, we have this old game, Rogue, which now appears on Steam for $2.99. I have purchased it, and I've put... How long have I put into this now? I was playing it this morning. A little over an hour. You know, and I'm not going to lie. I've enjoyed it. It's nothing that you can't just go out and get on the abandonware circuit, still to this day. So take that as you will. But the original Rogue as a game, in my opinion, and some of the people I've talked to disagree with me, in my opinion, it still holds up to this day. I enjoy things that leave a lot to the imagination. You know, the theater of the mind, as Sean would say. And Rogue is a game that does that very, very well. So, that's all I have for Rogue, and that's all I have for this morning. I'm going to send you back to the studio, I guess. All right, back again from yesterday's recording. We've now caught up with real time. It is now 7:47 in the morning. Let's see. I want to go back to the Chiptunes Equals Win Volume 6 album because there's some really good stuff on there. But first, let's just take a minute to thank the sponsors. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. These gentlemen do keep the lights on here in a very literal way. So I tip my hat to them, and I offer my thanks, and I read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. They are Hemrock, EmeraldRangers.com, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, Konstantin Kelman, and Eric Controller. Thank you guys so much. I hope you're enjoying the party. And while we're on the subject of EmeraldRangers.com, I just submitted my Keystone Capers article yesterday. I think it's scheduled for release this Sunday, so keep an eye on EmeraldRangers.com for that. All right, boys and girls, Chiptunes Equals Win, Volume 6. We'll be right back on TCR. Chiptunes Equals Win, Volume 6. That's where you can find that track. And that was Oxide, Luna Maria. 5 minutes and 51 seconds. That's a long-running track to be played here on TCR. I usually like to keep it shorter than that. But I do so enjoy it. All right. So last week we did get an email from Hemrock that I completely missed when it came time for the fail bag. So let's check that out. Let's see what he's got for us, because his emails are always awesome. He says, received 10 days ago. Reply? Maybe? Hey, CF. Thank you as usual for another episode. I'm digging the music. You got me thinking about the old 8-Bit Collective. I found 2 archive.org posts with some of the tunes from that site. You can find them here and here. After digging through these compilations, I've attached a few recommendations to include the likes of Wiz Wars, Fear of Dark, and the Malman. Let me know if you remember any of them. Also looking forward to the 4th volume of the TCR Chiptune mixtape. We should do that today. Since we're talking about chiptunes, thank you for the heads up on the Cookie Fonster album. It looks like Digital Decay is getting the best of Flash. I tried to play Jetpack 2 online with Adobe Flash installed and it didn't work. Oh well, I wanted to experience the game before I lost my Flash player. Do you know of any way to download and play Flash games? Did you happen to try out the DOS shareware on archive.org? Take care and keep rolling retro. Awesome email. Let's see, we got a couple things here to go over. First and foremost, you talk about the archive.org posts of the 8-Bit Collective. The first one of those two is a pretty short mixtape style posting, but the second one, 5 years of 8-Bit Collective, that's a torrent that I believe is several gigabytes, and I'm actually on this one, believe it or not. There's a track that I can't remember if it's my Mario Land track that I did with guitars or if it was the Paperboy track that I did with Scott from Classic Leet, but I'm on here for sure. Great pack. Good luck just wading through it, though. Awesome stuff. As far as whether or not I remember the people that you mentioned, a couple of them I do. Fear of Dark, I know, is a big one, who's turned up several times since then and is still working. Wiz Wars in particular, I remember because Wiz Wars allowed me to use the track that I used for the introduction to the Neo Arcadia cast. If you remember, that was Sendu's big project from years and years ago. 8-Bit Collective was up and running at the time, so I went and found a track, and I said, hey man, are you cool with me using this for a podcast? And he said, yeah, that's cool. So that's Wiz Wars. You go back and dig up the old Neo Arcadia introduction, that's a Wiz Wars track in the background. There we go. It took me some searching, but I did find it. Here's the old Neo Arcadia introduction I put together for those guys.
This is Tiffany Grant, and you're listening to the Neo Arcadia cast. You should appreciate your good fortune.
That right there, that's Wiz War. That's a really good introduction, man. Can you believe that was 10 years ago? The episode that I pulled that from came out in May of 2011, and that was when they were wrapping up. Final episode before hiatus. And they did like a couple episodes after that. 10 years ago, man. It's been a while. Sure has. So that's how I know Wiz Wars. To put this in perspective, let's play one of the tracks that Hemrock has bundled in with that email. This is Handheld Hero from Wiz Wars, which I assume he got from the 8-Bit Collective downloads. What remains of a thriving site. In better times. You're listening to TCR. here's another one from that email that I'm not familiar with. This is Malman and Jewel with Tomorrow. Hold on a second. It bleeds off the screen. Let me maximize the window. Tomorrow Without You. Tomorrow without an entire title. You're listening to TCR. One more when we come back. The third track that Hemrock included with that email is a Fear of Dark track that we're going to hold on to and use in our chiptune special, which I'm going to try and get together today, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But thank you very much for that one. And that was the email that we missed last week, so I missed out on some really good content. Very sorry about that. And he wrote a follow-up. Stick with me here. Take two. Hey, Paisan. I hope this email finds you well. Thanks for another episode. It was great to hear Sendu on the show. I hope to meet him at Tigerfest one day. When possible, could you please drop the links to the for the chiptunes you spin? I really enjoyed the artist Pice, whom you played on the last TCR. Grabbed his album from Bandcamp this evening. Many thanks. Hemrock, I will do the best I can to add the links. I gotta be honest, this week it's not gonna happen because the first half of the show, the tracks came from your Chiptunes Equals Win archive. Chiptunes Equals Win went down, so I don't think you can get... Actually, let's do a quick search. I don't think you can get Chiptunes Equals Win 6 anymore, unless somebody else is hosting it. Chiptunes Equals Win Volume 6. I'm going to give it a shot. This Week in Chiptunes, Chiptunes equals win. There it is on SoundCloud. Like the artists who did the individual songs posted their tracks elsewhere. So in that sense, they're still around. But I don't think you can get the entire zip anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I would have no idea how to do a link to that. I'd have to dig up the songs individually. And then of course there's the email that you sent for the last one. But next week, when we revert to another release that you can go and download like we usually do, I will put links with them again. Thank you for reminding me. Let's get back to the email, if I can remember what tab it's in. Yeah, here we go. You mentioned that you like the hacking aspect of gaming. I just recently came across a few things that met at the crossroads of retro news and hacking. The first one is a tribute to both Sendu and our favorite defunct YouTuber, Gexup, someone who has recently created a hack of the first Sonic the Hedgehog, which allows you to play as Gex the Lizard. See info here and a video here. In another 16-bit hack, some genius created a new version of Super Mario Kart with all new levels and new racers to include Sonic. See details of that here. I'm familiar with some of the new level hacks for Mario Kart. I've played a couple of them. Let's see, but I have not played any character swaps. Let's see. Oh, all the racers are different. We're looking at, of the ones I recognize, because I don't recognize them all, we have Ken from Street Fighter. We have Pikachu, Ronald McDonald. I see Bomberman, and I see Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know who that is, who's taken the place of Donkey Kong. I can't quite tell. Yeah, that looks good. I would play that. What else we got here? Also in retro news, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, has finally made a return to consoles. It was just released this past Friday for download on all current gen consoles. Additionally, a limited run games is featuring a physical collector's edition, which includes an Anime Noguchi CD. Although a tape cassette of Anime Noguchi seems like it would be more fitting. Yes, it would. How are your RPG Maker games going? When will we get a room tour? You once told me you wanted to talk more about that worthwhile DOS games image, so I've attached a link to a high-resolution version of that JPEG. Enjoy. For what it's worth, I did write into the show last week. I've included my email at the end of this one if you're interested. I'm rooting for you. Keep rolling retro, Hemrock. Yes, I'm sorry about that. Let's talk about worthwhile DOS games. So this is a really big infographic that's worth looking up, and I think there's an entire show here. We're 36 minutes in, so I'm leery about digging into it now. Actually, you know what? There's probably not much on the YouTube portion of the fail bag. Let's check the YouTube portion of the fail bag, and if there's not much there, then we'll do the list of worthwhile DOS games. If we don't get to this whole thing today, because I wanted to do a complete deep dive in this image, then I would say it's definitely worth heading over to DuckDuckGo and looking up list of worthwhile DOS games and flip over to images, because this has been around for years and years and years. This is a very old image. Alright, stick with me. I'm going to head over to YouTube and see what's there. Alright, let's see what we got. We do have some comments from last week. Yeah! Alright, let's drop back to 6 days ago, 1 week ago. Sendu drops in. That's what happened last week. Got about halfway through the show, bumped into Sendu online, and pulled him on the air, and we talked for a while. So he commented himself. He says, Sega Neptune was not the code name for the Dreamcast, but actually the name of the prototype 32X standalone system that was never released. The Dreamcast broke the Planet Perdition and was codenamed Katana. Hemrock responds with, knowing is half the battle. Good to hear from you, Sendu. And yes, good to hear from you indeed. Sendu's a guy, boys and girls, who would know this kind of thing without looking it up. And I think as we said on the air together, I was a Nintendo kid growing up. Didn't adopt Sega-ism until I reached an adult. What else we got? Bear Grylls leaves a comment on my old Can't Stop Sneezing while opening Tekken Tag Tournament. And he says, man, you will go to heaven. Don't know what to make of that, but I'm going to assume it's a nice thing. Thanks, brother. Gaming Beast, Sean. Wow, Sean left comments last week. Thanks, man. He says, I got golden axed in the Sega Anniversary, when the Sega Anniversary was going. There were a couple of other games. I have yet to play it. I really should. Maybe I should be making some footage. Yeah, I'd watch it. He has another comment immediately after. Japanese console imports are usually cheaper. Swingo got me Secret of Mana and Dark Half, a Japan-only title for the Super Famicom. Really cheap and mint condition in a box. American and European video games from that era are way too expensive for me. And TurboGrafx, forget about it. Emulate that stuff. Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. Couple years ago, it was a big deal for me. I took a pair of pliers and peeled off the tabs inside of one of my Super Nintendos, and I'm actually able to play import games as well. I only ever bought pachinko games, but I got a hold of a couple just to make sure they actually did work, and they do. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I would love to get some more import games. I actually played my Super Nintendo for the first time in a while, just this last week. Was hanging out with my daughter, and she was playing Pokemon Go, and I was just kind of hanging around bored, and my Super Nintendo was there, fired it up, and I played a little bit of Super Mario All-Stars. Played Mario All-Stars for probably about 10 minutes, just trying to power through Super Mario Brothers 3. Because I remember that secret that Hemrock told me, where it's like if you use the warp whistle in the first world, and you use a second warp whistle again immediately, it will take you to the 8th world. I didn't know that growing up, so I wanted to finally give that a shot, and I did it, and I didn't get anywhere because I always use a P-wing on the airship level, and I didn't have one. So I put that again. That's probably about 10 minutes I put into that game, and then after that, I just devolved into staring blankly at a pachinko machine in Super Nintendo, which is kind of cool to get the old machine going again. Still works indeed. What else we got? Mecha Menace. It says, normally I don't promote vids, but I started a community project. As it goes, I'd like to see people contribute. So far, Death Adder is the only taker. I started a playlist where people go over pictures of their old setups over the years. My vid covers what I had in 1999. I'd be incredibly interested if people around the world contributed. Love to hear... people love room tours. Here's the playlist. YouTube likes to block comments for linking videos or playlists sometimes, so I'll follow up with this comment with another, noting that I posted a link. All right, give me a second here. I'm actually going to... Can I pin it? I have to go to the video to pin it, which I'll do in a second. I made a comment with a link to a YouTube playlist. It may have been blocked. Make sure you sort by newest tweet. Thank you. All right, so let's jump back to that video. Hemrock's been asking me to do a room tour as well, and I have a couple of like tours from... Not tours, but like collection videos that show off what my setup was like from like when I first started my YouTube channel. So I think I could actually take part in that. Alright, so what we're doing right now is we have to go back to my channel and we have to actually dig up that video so that I can pin that comment, because I think that's an awesome idea. Stick with me. Sure enough, it's hidden. Sort by newest first. There we go. There's his original comment. So we do a little thing and pin. There you go. Heart, thumbs up. I smashed that like button for you, buddy. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Personally, any project that you want to start that's like, let's bring the community together, I'm behind it already. But I think you do have a legit, like, good idea. So, yeah, let's see if we can get that rolling. I'm leery to bite off more projects because I have a ton already, but I think we could do that pretty quickly, right? Whatever happens, whether I contribute or not, I've pinned that comment, so go find his playlist, because that's an awesome idea. I'm sure there's really good content there. How we doing? 43 minutes in? 43 minutes in, and that's the fail bag. I wonder if we do have time for this thing about the... Give me a second. I'm jumping back to Hemrock's email with the big Worthwhile DOS Games image. Which, by the way, this is like 7.5 megs for, you know, an infographic. I guess infographics tend to run bigger. That's not that unusual. All right, I had it for a second here. It's loading. Nope, that's a meaty file. Alright, how we doing? We on? Okay, let's blow this thing up. List of worthwhile DOS games, which didn't seem like a promising gaming platform. MS-DOS became a landmark and a starting point for the PC gaming industry, and roughly 1981 to 1997 were released thousands of games in every genre. The objective of this list is to present a varied collection of classic PC games based on this text-based operating system, and at the same time getting a retrospective through the perils of the era. The games were primarily selected based on their influence, innovation, and controversy without forgetting the fun factor, along with its addictiveness. Notes: games that were released in DOS and Windows version at the same time, such as 2, Red Alert, Ignition, and others, were not taken into account. A few of these games are ports, and they are represented with the letter P inside of the arrow, and some titles have franchise or expansion ribbons in the upper right corner, meaning... Come on, let's scroll to the right. That their counterpart should be played. You can legally purchase and download many of these games online. Typically, such games come with a DOS emulator software called DOSBox so that you can run them on a modern Windows machine. Take a look at GOG.com and Abandonia.com. Most information is taken from Wikipedia, Abandonia, or compiled from an array of magazines, books, review sites, forums, vlogs, chat rooms, chat's a word I hadn't heard in a while, and a few image boards. No claim to accuracy or objectivity is implied. C:\\bracket. There you go. Okay, so the first one we have is not actually a game. It says RIP. Long gone but immortalized in the pixelated worlds you've created and in the memories of those who engage them. This is actually a gravestone with a bunch of company names on it for companies that are not around anymore. The ones I recognize: Bullfrog, Micropose, Westwood Studios, of course, Dynamics, Crystal Dynamics, Surtec, Infocom. Infocom, man, there's more than one documentary on the fate of Infocom, and they were absolutely fascinating. That is an amazing story to be told. Borderbund, Sierra, and is that SSL or SSI? The one that put out all the strategy games. I think that's SSI, and then the line is from Crystal Dynamics. All right, yeah, a lot of old companies. They're not around anymore, but we can still enjoy their work. So the first one we have is Abuse from 1995, which is a side-scrolling game. Now, I wasn't familiar with Abuse back in the day, but I remember it mostly from a review that Sean did of it in his Gaming Beast series back when he was doing, video essay type reviews. Then we have Albion from 1995, which I had never played, but it looks good. It says one of the most notable top underdogs of role-playing games, created during a time of crisis. It managed to enrich the genre with its depth and attention to detail. It proves that even when RPGs were not mainstream, dedication and love to the genre were enough to produce a gem. Sure looks good. Isometric in its perspective. Adventure role-playing. The screenshot they made that they gave of it almost looks like Raptor: Call of the Shadows, which is a completely different kind of game. Next we come to Alien Carnage, 1993. Side-scrolling, third-person, action shooter. This is a blurb I'd like to read. I'm not going to read all of these, but this one I will read. Aliens are turning people into zombies, and you, as Halloween Harry, must save the day. The awesome graphics, smooth animation, and responsive controls, and the implementation of a flamethrower with a jetpack made it. It worked as an effective way to ditch the jumping puzzles and kept the focus on the action. I've played Alien Carnage. I have it in the Apogee 3D Realms pack that came out and then disappeared a year later. That's a hard game, man. It really is. It took that early PC side-scrolling Commander Keen, Duke Nukem era, and oh my gosh, the difficulty is cranked way up, but it's a good game. Next, we have a classic title, Alone in the Dark. It's one of those games that known mostly for its influence, but not many people actually play through it. or can say they have. I've tried a couple times, didn't get anywhere. Survival horror starts here. Alone in the Dark is a splendid mixture of puzzles and monster funs with a strong emphasis on the work of H.P. Lovecraft, combining enough innovation, gameplay, and genius with sheer entertainment that years later is still being copied and imitated. Yes, it's still being copied and imitated, but it's a tough game to play, brother. That's one of those games where it's like you touch the wrong panel, you die. You wait too long in this room, you die. You go to the wrong room for the wrong time, you die. Everything's you die. I don't know. Next we have Alter Ego, first person. That's another game that... Alter Ego is a game that I never had much interest in playing, but it keeps coming up when it comes to video game history. It's like the Beatles in that way. Not super into the Beatles, but can't deny their influence. Next is Battle Chess, which we've covered here on the air a couple times. Beneath a Steel Sky. Now, this is one I think is worth a look because most people who opened GOG accounts around the time that I did, there was only a couple of games for free that you could do it, and the reason I opened a GOG account was so I could get Beneath a Steel Sky. Now, if you go over to GOG, there's a lot of good stuff you can get for free, like Jill of the Jungle and whatnot, but this one was a point-and-click adventure from 1994 that I was after. Good game. Next, we got Betrayal at Crondor. Betrayal at Crondor is really phenomenal. The wonderful game system, lack of bugs, and book-like atmosphere elevates it to the best of the games. To the best of the games. Yeah, that's the way it's written. Crondor was a revolution in turn-based RPGs, in the same way Ultima Underworlds was in 3D RPGs. Raymond Feist fans should definitely check this one out. It's weird because I remember playing Betrayal at Crondor at the time when EverQuest was still like a hot new game, and I remember thinking, wow, this is actually really similar. Yeah, I didn't put a ton of time into it, but I did enjoy what I played. Later on, I got Return to Crondor on CD-ROM, which I still have hanging around, I think. And I actually installed that. Return to Crondor was actually the very last CD-ROM game I ever installed. And by that I mean like a year or two ago. And not at all the same. Not good at all. Betrayal at Crondor is where it's at. Return to Crondor, I think, can be ignored in my opinion. Then we have Bioforge. Imagine Alone in the Dark with texture mapping. I never played it. It looks good though. Blackthorn, similar to Flashback Amiga. Similar style to the Amiga game Flashback. Blackthorn offers more action and requires a little less thinking. All it takes is a tough, charismatic, macho character with a shotgun, set loose in a fantasy world to reclaim the throne, which is rightfully his. Simple recipe. Blackthorn kicks so much butt. 1994. Looks good, man. Looks good. I don't know that game, but it has all of the elements of a game that I would enjoy. So far, Blackthorn is the game to get for me coming off of this list. Then we come to a sad story. Blood, 1997. Blood. I'm partial to the Ken Silverman build engine games because we had Shadow Warrior when I was a teenager, and I used to build levels for it incessantly. Blood is a game that came from the same era. Sean, in particular, will tell you all about Blood. And what I remember the most about it is it's the one game that went forever without a decent source port. So if you wanted to play the truly authentic Blood for a very long time, very, very long time, you had to play it in DOS. Until finally, a pretty good port with multiplayer came out on Steam a while back. Good game. Did you know that the movie Tommy Boy with Chris Farley and David Spade has a reference to blood in it? It does. I didn't know that, but until recently. But the filmmaker was a fan of Blood, which came out first, by the way, before you say it. And they reference Jojo the Idiot Boy, or his name is, which is a scene in one of the earlier stages in Blood. Next we have Budokan the Martial Spirit, 1989. Kick Punch, It's All in the Mind. That's a pass for me, but if you like martial arts games like Karateka, you might enjoy it. 1997, Carmageddon. Okay, so my buddy Angie had Carmageddon in the big box back when it was new. As a matter of fact, he got his computer at the time from Circuit City. He got his computer and 2 big box games. One was Shadow Warrior, and that was indeed how we got into Shadow Warrior, and the other was Carmageddon. And I remember playing Carmageddon like twice, because we got big into Shadow Warrior. But what I remember the most about it from back then was like running over a couple of people and then just doing this replay thing over and over and over and over again, and watching my car run over the same couple of people from different angles. That's what I remember the most about my original experience with Carmageddon. I since went back and replayed it and really enjoyed it. I mean, the car physics in Carmageddon, look, I'm not going to lie. That first game, they were really clunky. Tell me I'm wrong. The cars were a little unresponsive. There was some pretty heavy latency in the controls, even when the system was running at peak performance. There was the default key layout was not great. It's playable. I'm not saying it was completely broken, but it's pretty clunky. So there have been additional Carmageddon games in that franchise since then, but this is a game that needs an HD version or a remake version. The same way they gave to Blood, which we talked about just a minute ago. I want to see that for the original Carmageddon. That's a day one purchase for me. Blood was a day one purchase. The Blood remake, bought that as soon as I could. Got it and got into the multiplayer craze when people were still just jumping in and playing random multiplayer. Carmageddon would be another one. Next we have Civilization from 1991. Big game for my group. You guys know Hemrock and Sean and I have been in a Civ. Wow, I almost said Civ 2 game. No, we've been playing Alpha Centauri. We did do Civ 2 play by email before, though. Yeah, Civilization's a big game. My history with Civilization was a phone call with Hemrock. I can't even remember if we used a phone or if we used Skype, where he walked me through the basics of playing Civ 2. And that was a lot of years ago, easily 10 years ago. This one came out in 1991, and I don't have much experience with the first Civilization. But here it is. Then we have Colonization, which I'm going to give a little bit more attention to, because this is one that Hemrock played a bunch and came back and kept telling me about. Colonization came out again as a commercial mod for Civilization 4. In fact, that was in the era when Steam games would have mods or expansion packs, and those expansion packs would have their own Steam listings. So consequently, there is a Colonization listing for the Civ 4 engine version of Colonization. But this one, Hemrock tells us, is far superior. 1994, so this was a solid 3 years after the first Civ game. And the description reads as follows. This game is so complex and has so many layers that you will probably learn new things every time you play it. Its potential is limitless, and each session is unique. The graphics are very nice and easy on the eyes, navigation is pretty simple, and you'll learn it quickly. A brilliant and shining masterpiece, and I would agree, that's Colonization. Which, the original Colonization is out on GOG. Go get yourself a copy. Then we have Command & Conquer, 1995. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Command & Conquer because I bought the reproduction, the remake recently, and we talked a lot about the problems with Command & Conquer. Very flawed game, but has such a warm place in my heart. Big props to Sean for giving me a German copy of the game. When I used to collect big box games around turn of the century, year 2000. It's Y2K was coming up. Command & Conquer was one of the games that I bought. I was going to GameStop every day, and they had our local GameStop was still wall to wall with big box games, but it was like the last year they did that. So there were games they were trying to dump, and then there was like a small section where it was new games, and the games they were trying to dump was usually where I got my stuff. Like I got Quake, big box Quake for $10. You know, big box Quake 2 for $10. I had to pony up for Quake 3. That was $30, but you get the picture. Command & Conquer was one of those games. I kept seeing it for $20. One day I came in and it was $10, and I bought it. That's Command & Conquer. Then we come to Commander Keen, which is so funny to me because Commander Keen I really remember from this era. Like I remember it from long prior to that. When I think of these games, like Command & Conquer, I think of as I don't think of that as a DOS game. It was, but I think of it more as like a Windows game. Commander Keen is more like the era where you would get that off of a bulletin board system. You know, the only people back in the days who had Commander Keen, like the commercial version, actually called an 800 number or wrote out on a real piece of paper with a stamp and an envelope. And got it that way. Let's see. Constructor, 1997. I disagree with that being on this list. I think that's a weird game. I think there's better games to spend your time with. Crusader, No Remorse, 1995, isometric shooting game. This is another one that Sean covered in his Gaming Beast series many years ago. Go watch his Crusader, No Remorse video. It's a good time. Then we have Degeneration, 1991. This is one I'm not familiar with, so let's take a look. The best parts of this game are in the simple gameplay style. Each room is an office building. In the office building is a simple, unique puzzle, yet there are different routes through the building and the excellent background stories to learn about on the way. Very solid game, which was overshadowed by its popular colleagues at the time. 1991, isometric puzzle action. That is D/Generation. Alright, we drop down to the next line. And I'm so zoomed in. I have to be really careful about how I scroll around on this image. We're not even halfway through it, and we've already passed the hour mark. I gotta pick it up. Darklands, 1992. This is a game I didn't know about back then, but I got on Steam much later. Tried it a little bit, and I had this experience where it's like, oh, I would have really loved this many years ago. Isometric adventure role-playing, although that leaves out the map screen, which is very much first-person. And I enjoyed that. Day of the Tentacle, 1993. Spectacular, witty comedy. Maniac Mansion 2. Day of the Tentacle was one I wanted back then because I knew it existed, couldn't get it. Here's a gem, another gem that stays right here in my heart. Death Rally, 1996. Included high-speed action, very fast frame rate, incredible music, good graphics, and an evil edge with some managerial elements, random encounters, and just one more race addiction. It's truly one of the gems of gaming history. You can even race against the charismatic Duke. I liked Death Rally. It was a great game. That was one of the games that I had a shareware version back in the day, and I just never thought. I was like, I want to have this game. I want to have the full version, and I know it's never going to happen. So big props to GOG.com and eventually Steam for digging up the original Death Rally and making it available for purchase. Now, in the Abandonware era, you were able to get Death Rally just by downloading it, but because it was what it was, there was no sound, so that was crap. So I would not recommend going to look for an Abandonware download of Death Rally. I would recommend ponying up the $6 or whatever it is, because I know it's not a lot, and getting it. Top-down racing game. You're able to shoot, you're able to ram cars, buy weapons, cut deals. Good game. Really good game. Then we have Descent and Descent 2, 1995. Moving things right along. Doom and Doom 2 Hell on Earth, 1993. Duke Nukem 3D, 1996. These are the games like... This is one of the reasons I like this list, is it's not specifically overlooked gems. You know what I mean? So I see this little run of games, Descent, Doom, and Duke 3D, and they don't seem out of place at all. I guess these are alphabetical. Yeah, then Dune 2, The Building of a Dynasty. I never played the Dune games, but I've heard them praised pretty highly. Real-time strategy. Not much of a real-time strategy game guy. But I do want to check out the Dune games at some point. 1993. Here's a big one in my history. Epic Pinball. This game rocks, starting with the awesome music through the graphics of the great collection of the intuitive tables, such as the tribute to Epic's first game, Jill of the Jungle, with a table called Jungle Pinball. They would later develop Extreme Pinball, which is a fast-paced, surreal pinball game. I'm not familiar with Extreme Pinball. Epic Pinball, I know, though. Oh, my goodness. I was playing that just a few weeks ago, actually. Good game. That's a pinball game that still holds up. My only problem is that it defaults to 5 balls. I like to play pinball with 3 balls because that's like when you actually go to a pinball table, that's what they give you. It defaults to 5 balls, and the high scoreboard for a 5-ball game and a 3-ball game shares the same board, which is silly pants. But that's okay. It's great. I like it. Really good. Then we have Eye of the Beholder 2, The Legend of Darkmoon. I don't know why they picked Eye of the Beholder 2. It's a good series, but why 2? Full Throttle 1995, which is a point-and-click adventure. Let's drop down a little bit. Drop down another line. Yeah, we gotta go faster than this. Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Fathers, 1993. Never got around to playing Gabriel Knight. So I like the point-and-click games, and it's from, 1993. That's like Sierra making its best point-and-click games. We're talking like Space Quest 4, Space Quest 5, those types of games where the engine is really fleshed out. And on top of that, Robert Holmes, who did the music for these games, was actually on TCR many years ago. So I should go check it out, but I haven't. Goblin's Quest 3 from 1993. Crazy adventure game about a goblin called Blount. I don't know, that's a pass for me. Grand Prix 2 Racing. The original Grand Theft Auto. Oh, no, this is one that kills me here. Grand Theft Auto gleefully embraced the anarchy. Hang on. Are we good? Something weird happened with the sound. Yeah, the original Grand Theft Auto is on this list. It's marked 1997, which I thought it was earlier than that, but no, that sounds about right, actually. I can't remember if that was in my big box collection or not. At the very end of me collecting big box PC games, there was a copy of the original Grand Theft Auto. I want to say I did actually get a hold of it. But it had box art that's very different from what you saw later in the series. I played the original GTA for PlayStation for the most part. Doesn't get a lot of shine. I love the original game. It's so good. It's nothing like, GTA 3 or what Grand Theft Auto is now. But the first game, as its own type of game, was a ton of fun, and it sucks that it's kind of not around anymore. Rockstar Games gave away GTA 1 and GTA 2 for free on their website for a very long time. I don't know if they still do, but they had really intrusive sign-up policies. Like, it was actually very difficult to get a hold of it. And then on Steam, you could buy it for a while, but not directly. You had to buy the Grand Theft Auto complete pack in order to get it. So I was able to get it on Steam that way, but there's too many problems when you try and play it on a Windows 10 PC. Grand Theft Auto 2 I can play, but not the first one, and it sucks, because I really want to play that game again. It was a really good game. Heretic and Hexen, Beyond Heretic, 1994. Awesome games. Hero's Quest wants you to be a hero, 1989. That's a game that I've been told. It says Hero's Quest, so you want to be a hero, but on the top you see clearly Quest for Glory 1. This is the licensing stuff that we talked about with Sean a little while back. 1995. Now here we go. Heroes of Might and Magic, third-person turn-based strategy RPG. This game takes what began in King's Bounty 1990 and turns it into a great game. It assumes a certain level of intelligence and doesn't dumb things down. Gameplay is intuitive and leaves a lot of stuff to be discovered about itself, which leads to an addictive just one more turn game style. That's a hard game, man. Every time I play Heroes of Might and Magic, I have a good start to the game. I do a couple of small battles where it's like, oh, I forgot how fun this game is. And then I just get my clock cleaned. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I don't play this anymore. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, 1995. Another point-and-click adventure game that I'm told I should play, but I haven't put much time into. But what I have played is Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, 1992. Which, weirdly, it's a voice-acted game with Indiana Jones, but somebody else playing the part of Indy. And on paper, that sounds awful. But the guy that got to do it is actually really good, and it gels really well. So Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, 1992. That is a game worth playing. Jagged Alliance, which I tried a little bit because I liked the original XCOM, but I didn't get hooked. And then we drop down a little bit more. We've got Jane's Combat Situations, AH-64D Longbow, from 1996. Let's see about this one. It was a milestone. It had great graphics, excellent realism, and challenging gameplay. This is a combat flight sim. I don't know too many of those, to be perfectly honest. There were a couple. I mean, I like Red Baron. But when I wanted to fly and shoot things, I usually wanted to do it in space. And I never really played the Ace Combat games, even though I have Japanese versions of Ace Combat 1 and 2. Jazz Jackrabbit, 1994, another shareware game I had back when it was new. King's Quest 6. Every one of the Quest games should be on this list as far as I'm concerned. King's Quest VI, I think, is the first representative of the Sierra mainline series. Lands of Lore, Throne of Chaos, another game that's available now in digital distro. Leisure Suit Larry and the Land of the Lounge Lizards, which is a weird entry because Al Lowe, who made this game, said he sold way more strategy guides than actual games, and he called it the most pirated game in history. I don't know if that's true or not, but he said that. I remember playing it, not when it was new, but I remember playing it early in the abandonware era. So we're talking like I downloaded it off of a dial-up internet connection and played it like that. Then we have Lemmings, a game I knew existed but didn't really play. Little Big Adventure 1994. I didn't know what that was until digital distro. Then we have Loom 1990. And Loom is presented in a special way because the numbers are all magical, and no other disc has that. Let's see what they say. Loom is the epitome of LucasArts' creative talent and storytelling mastery. A haunting work where the art, music, and myth conspire to tell an original, dreamlike story. It all boils down to the fact that Loom is special. It is a highly entertaining and is so unusual that it should be experienced. I've had Loom on Steam for years, never played it. I got it with a LucasArts pack. It came along with The Dig, which I did try, and I believe Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis was in that pack as well, which is one of those games I spent the most time with. Sip of tea for Loom and for LucasArts. Then we have Mechanized Assault and Exploration, 1996. Seen it around. I've had it for years. Tried it a couple times. Didn't get hooked. But we're looking at turn-based strategy, top-down. Elements of games that I enjoy really, but for whatever reason, in this particular instance, didn't hook me. Magic Carpet, first-person view action flight simulator. It's a creation from Bullfrog, 1994. Early Bullfrog. Usually when I think of early Bullfrog, I think of Theme Hospital. Good game. How we doing now? I think we're actually making some headway now. Master of Orion 2, Battle of Antares, 1994. A high-quality product that blends tactics, strategy, and management into an accessible and playable game. Just watch out for the apprentice of any latent megalomaniac tendencies. Its detailed play options, randomized encounters, and custom capabilities are everything that a hardcore veteran dreams of. Master of Orion, Hemrock and Sean. Tell us about Master of Orion 2, because I played the first one, and I gotta tell you, all of those things apply to the first one, but I know the second one is dialed up quite a bit more. So here we go to another game that I've been, told many times is worth my time, but haven't actually done. Immediately following that on this list, we have Master of Magic, 1994, and then Mechwarrior 2, 1995, which I remember from the original PlayStation, but I don't ever remember on the computer. I actually had a CD-ROM of Mechwarrior 2 for the PC for years, and I could never make it work, so I finally ended up letting it go. Then we come to 1987 NetHack. Okay, there are no sounds or music, no graphical beautifulness, or clumsy 3D creatures that are haunted with broken shotguns. No dance of the colors with the fuzzy pixels. Not sights in the screen that would make you tingle with amazement. This is just NetHack, and it should be more than enough. So we talked about the original Rogue early in the show. This is the 1987 version of NetHack, which is very, very similar to Rogue. It looks mostly black and white, whereas Rogue is somewhat colorful with like yellow rooms and green dots and stuff. What I'm seeing on the screen here is the game that I remember when I think of NetHack. My dad had a copy of this on a floppy disk. I played it a couple of times. But the old version of NetHack that we had, you did not move with the arrow keys. You had to move with like a combination of the letter keys that were awkwardly placed. And a very young version of Alex could not get my head around it, so I didn't get hooked. When I went to look it up later in life, this was not what I found. I found something with like image tiles that was developed. It had evolved more than this. I could not find the original NetHack anymore. I could probably find it pretty easily now if I spent some time looking, but the last time I gave it a shot, couldn't find it. One Must Fall, 1994. Looks like a fighting game. Not familiar. Out of This World, a.k.a. Another World, which I remember mostly from the Ouya, because I had it on the Ouya and actually tried to play through it a couple times. Panzer General 1984. This is a classic that I hold dear. Mostly from the Abandonware era, but you could get it in long box format for the original PlayStation. This one never made it to GOG.com. Don't know why. They got Fantasy General. They got Panzer General 2. Never got the original Panzer General. Populous, 1989. Early... Is that Bullfrog? I know Populous was Peter Molyneux, but I don't know if it was actually Bullfrog or not. I want to say yes, it was. Never quite figured out how to play it, though. Quake, 1996. I've said everything you could say about Quake. It's an amazing game. And then Raptor Call of the Shadows, 1994. Brings out the fun of shooting the heck out of everything and adds just enough style to make it a completely fantastic experience that keeps giving instead of just a couple of funny minutes that you spend at the arcade. It's a pulse-pounding experience that never gives up, and it keeps coming for more. Also, Twin Laser. Yes, Raptor Call of the Shadows is an awesome game. How we doing? How many more rows do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Jeez Louise. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that might be as far as I can go today. Let's drop down to the next one. We'll finish it next week. Yeah, then we go into the Realms of Arcania Trilogy. So the problem is I'm shotgunning through these, and some of these games are deserving more time than I'm giving them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it here and call it a week, and then next week we'll finish it up. So that's it for TCR for this week. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you're doing well. It's Inauguration Day, so stay off of Twitter today. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy. Keep your head up. Keep giving it everything you got, and I'll see you next week.